Shortcut to wealth. That's what I'm going to talk about on this video. Now, that's really what so many people are looking for. They just want the shortcut. They don't want to go the long way, and you know, that's smart. And there are definitely shortcuts to wealth. I'm going to tell you in this very brief video, I'm going to tell you some of my own shortcuts to wealth. And I hope you'll pay attention, and I hope you'll learn from my story. Look, many years ago, back in the mid-1980s, so think about where you were back in the mid-1980s. Many of you weren't even born yet. I got this crazy idea that I could become a millionaire. And it was crazy too, because I was a high school dropout. I went to work in the oil fields, dropped out of high school. Then I worked construction, grew up in central Kansas, and you know, I grew up in an oil field town. And the oil field was moving back in the 70s. So I was a high school kid, and I just said to hell with it. I didn't like school and went to work in the oil field. And then by the time I'm in my mid-20s, I went through oh, God only knows, maybe 100 jobs, couple hundred jobs when you count all the oil field jobs I worked. Probably a couple hundred different jobs. And so here I am, I'm working in a factory now, welding mobile home frames, and hating every minute of it. So I was 22, 23 years old, just hated every minute of it, but that was the best kind of job that I could get. And it paid fairly well for an uneducated, pretty much unskilled kind of person. But then I started joining these multi-level marketing companies, and I got this crazy idea that I could become a millionaire. Well, it became an obsession for me. And all my friends and family laughed at me. They told me that that was the craziest damn thing they ever heard. They laughed in my face. They laughed behind my back. They just thought that someone like me thinking that they could become a millionaire was absolutely insane. It was a joke. I needed mental help or whatever. But I didn't listen to them. And so I got rid of the naysayers in my life. I ultimately started my own business with a friend of mine, Gary. And that became the first real shortcut here. Look, I was working as a carpet cleaner for another gentleman that he had the truck, he had the franchise, he gave me everything. He gave me the uniform, sent me to school in Waco, Texas, where I not only learned how to clean carpets and some of the ins and outs and all of that, but I learned how to dye carpets, which, you know, if we did a lot of work for landlords and stuff where the old tenant moved out, they didn't want to replace the carpet, so we just dyed over all of the spots in the carpet, the oil spots where they had their engine all pulled apart during the wintertime. And anyway, I learned how to dye carpets, clean carpets and upholstery, and I learned some of the marketing methods that were necessary to bring in customers. I was there as part of I was the only employee that was there. It was a school that the franchisees went through. Anyway, so I was cleaning carpets for another gentleman, and then my good friend Gary, who knew how ambitious I was, Gary just said, hey, we should start our own carpet cleaning company. And that became my first real shortcut here, because without Gary, I wouldn't have had enough courage to do it on my own. I was making good money, but I was spending it as fast as I made it. And Gary came along, and even though he didn't have any more money than I had, he had the willingness and the desire to do it, and he became my business partner, and ultimately that was a real shortcut for me. So Gary and I didn't make it as business partners and friends. The whole thing dissolved after about 9 months, but by that time we had 2 trucks, 2 sets of equipment. He took one, I took the other, and ultimately then I started my own carpet cleaning business. I kept the company name, actually. So Gary went and moved to another little town and started his own carpet cleaning business. Anyway, it became a real shortcut for me because Gary was really great in the short term. He couldn't sustain it long term, but in the short term, he was amazing. Even though we didn't have any money, nothing stopped Gary. And so then I met my wife Eileen, thank God, and Eileen was working as a cashier at a filling station. She wasn't making any money, but she had a lot of ambition. She thought it was pretty cool that I had my own. I asked her out. I was, instantly attracted to her, and I asked her out on a date. She was excited about the fact that I had my own small business. Even though it wasn't much, I had a lot more ambition than her ex-husband, and she got excited, and I told her I was joining all these network marketing companies by this time, and I was telling her that I was going to be a millionaire, and she didn't laugh. She did not laugh. She laughed at some of the crazy programs that I was spending my money on, but she didn't laugh at me. She became someone who believed in me, supported me, guided me. She worked with me side by side. I fell in love with her on a carpet cleaning job while we were dating. Because here she's a little tiny woman at the time. She weighed 100 pounds dripping wet. And she had multiple sclerosis that was in remission, which is a terrible disease, but what disease isn't terrible? And yet she was coming with me on these carpet cleaning jobs and working side by side with me while we were dating. I wasn't paying her any money, and she was working her little ass off. And I fell in love with her. I said, here's a woman that I can actually work with. It became a real shortcut because we got married in January of '88, and by September of '88 we started our business, and that's a business that remains to this day. We're celebrating our 30th year right now. Eileen's no longer part of that business, but she's definitely part of my life. And her MS ultimately, forced her out of that business. But Eileen ran the business for the first 12 years. She became a real shortcut for me because that let me focus on learning everything I could about marketing. There was no room in our small business for the two of us. And some people say, hey, should I go into business with my spouse? I say, if you can help it, don't do it. Don't go into business with your spouse unless you absolutely have to. Or, I would say in the situation with my wife Eileen, her and I, from the time we were dating, we were doing entrepreneurial type of stuff. And so it was it was not from the get-go we were working together. I told her I fell in love with her on a carpet cleaning job. I just realized, here's a woman I can grow with. Here's a woman I can do something with. We need people in our lives. Those people become our shortcuts. For the first 12 years, all Eileen did, she ran the business, and we built a fairly substantial business, and that let me focus everything on selling and marketing and learning every aspect of sales and marketing. Eileen and I made millions of dollars right out of the gate because we were a great team. You can't do it alone. A shortcut to wealth. Find the right people. I just mentioned two of the people in my life that have been instrumental. In the second part of this video, I'm going to do a shortcut to wealth, part 2. I'll tell you how we then made millions, tens of millions of dollars, and now how we can help you do the same thing. So if you're one of my clients, you already know how we're helping you do the same thing. If you're not one of my clients and you want more about this whole topic of shortcut to wealth, listen to part 2 of this video. And thank you very much. If you're not one of my clients, you want to know more about me, click on the link below. And hopefully I'll see you on the video number 2 of the shortcut to wealth. Bye for now. I want to keep this shorter.